podcast. So Nell Scovell sent me this thing. I was, as I have been since 2016, gobsmacked. The world is so different for me. I used to wonder what it was like for my dad to see the late 60s and see things that he just took as absolutely true turned upside down. And Nixon, and what it was like for my dad to experience Nixon and Kent State and the dollar not being backed by gold. And, you know, during the, we covered this with Kurt Anderson a year ago today. Kurt Anderson talked about during 69 and 70, how many bombs, terrorist bombs, went off a year in the United States of America? Anybody know?
I don't know the number now.
Okay. Well, let me give you a big hint. How many a month? Let me give you a bigger hint. How many a week? Let me give you a bigger hint. How many a day? 10 a week. More than one a day terrorist bombings in the USA in 69 and 70. Can you imagine if that were happening now?
Yeah.
There would be martial law.
Yeah.
There's no doubt there'd be martial law. And this was, you know, the weathermen, the SDS. I don't want to name, but it was predominantly from what self-identified as the left. And part of, you know, bringing down the big power structure. And yet we had, now you had, how many bomb threats did you have at your school when you were going to school?
Legit?
No, you had to empty out the school for a bomb threat.
One.
Good deal?
None. Zero.
None. Yeah, we had about one every 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow.
Bomb threats called in. Not true.
No.
Not real, but all the same, emptied out the school. Ready?
I think 3.
Okay. That used to be a level of danger that we lived with. Okay. But anyway, so the world, I know if someone listens to this show and says, Penn's view, you know, like trying to change from he or she to they, my heart is completely behind it, 100%. And I understand intellectually it's just old dog, new tricks.
Right.
It's just
Still can't quite do it.
Yeah, but I will be able to.
Every intention to do it. It's just going to take a month.
I will
to
be
learn.
able to, and it's the right thing to do. I just wish the world had gone a little differently, and they had picked a non-gender pronoun that wasn't the plural that we're already using.
Right.
You know, and a lot of those have been. There was Tay was suggested, and T was suggested. T and Tis were all suggested, and I thought there was better choices. But that doesn't matter. I got my vote. I was alive during that time. My vote was not registered. It is now the plural becomes the singular. Simple, done. I just have to learn it. Give me time. Also, the president that we have, I believe, is harder for me to accept than for my dad to accept Nixon. You know,
Right.
My dad, who was who believed presidents were good men.
Right.
When Watergate hit, it was very, very, very difficult. He wasn't a Nixon supporter. It wasn't like he couldn't believe his guy did this.
Right.
He just couldn't believe that a person in that position could do this. He couldn't believe that you could have a bad president. He couldn't believe that a president went crazy. You know, Nixon was not the first in history. We've had a lot of bad presidents before that, but his moment my dad saw in his lifetime, he had presidents he disagreed with, but no president he didn't respect. That would not even on the table. Oh, there's a president, you know, and now it's acceptable to not respect the president. Has been for 30 years, 40 since Nixon.
Yeah.
And now we have a president who I am finding the resolution of cognitive dissonance so difficult. I don't believe that if you put me under sodium pent and stripped away, got down to my heart, what I really believe, I don't believe that I believe that Donald Trump is president.
Right.
Oh, I really don't think I do.
Yeah.
I really don't think I do.
It does seem impossible.
It's impossible. And every time you hear a new outrage from him, it's impossible that it's real. I always think, I really do. And I'm not even hyperbolizing or bullshitting. I sometimes think, oh, that was a dream. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, how can that be? So now, Kavanaugh is trying to be the Supreme Court justice. I don't follow the news on a daily basis anymore. I read books, magazine. I don't read the daily news. I don't want to hear it anymore. I get the stuff at the end of a week. I read the weekly news. And so now it's Kavanaugh cannot be Supreme Court justice. And once again, the end justifies the means. So the other side, instead of going, you guys are really dicks about Obama's Supreme Court, we're going to do the right thing. That's not even considered. Because the stakes are too high. And okay, I can see that point of view.
Sure.
Maybe you're right. I'm not going to argue that battle now. What I'm arguing is now it's been brought up, now not in the Senate. I don't want to, because I don't need to self-aggrandize, because this is already too insane. Slate, which is supposed to be real political writing, is quoting somebody who was clerking for Kozinski, Alex Kozinski, who they refer to, man, this broke my heart, they refer to as the disgraced justice, a Ninth Circuit judge, Alex Kozinski, who had some of the most important rulings that you're ever going to see, that I agree with very much. He's no longer a judge. He left because of, I'm going to call this because everybody else is calling it. I don't think it's actually accurate, but me too.
Okay.
Part of that for things in the workplace that people didn't like. He happens, I can't speak to this politically because Alex Kozinski is a friend of mine. And there's that difficulty of the loyalty to ideas or loyalty to people. And I don't want to talk about the ideas now. I just want to say Alex Kozinski is my friend. So if I have friends that are going through stuff, I support them emotionally. And I'm afraid that I cannot be in any way objective or rational about claims against him. Not talking about that. We're not talking about Alex Kozinski. I didn't bring it up on the show. I love him. He's brilliant. And I agree with what he did on the bench. I think almost all the time. And if I don't, it's because I'm wrong. Fabulous on privacy. Very libertarian, liberal judge, who, by the way, now that he's been taken out for these for the things he did, that I believe that judgeship will be replaced by Trump, which is Ninth Circuit, which is us, and California, and Portland.
Yeah.
Ninth Circuit. I'm sorry, I'll get a little emotional because Kozinski went through a very hard time. And I also think the country goes through a hard time for not having him. Whose fault that is, I don't want to get into. But the country has a hard time because we have a judge who is wonderful, who will be replaced with a judge that money says will not be as wonderful. Speaking of money says will not be as wonderful, we have Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh, I think if I understand this right, clerked for Kozinski. So what's come up is that Kozinski occasionally sent out jokes and told jokes. And I know that. Kozinski and I have shared jokes. And I don't think, let me ask you this, Matt Donnelly.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a room with two other comedians, people who worked in comedy, telling jokes that you went 5 minutes without something being said that couldn't be said in any company in a G-rated thing? Have you ever done that?
Wait, how many times that didn't happen, or how many times that did happen?
Have you ever had 5 minutes with two comedians where every single thing would have passed every rigor of kindness and language and everything? Every moment of it.
No, and this is...
Have you ever, Kudo?
No, it's impossible.
Yeah. So Kozinski and I will tell jokes, and I believe... I'm not saying he's a professional comedian, but the two of us were telling jokes in a room.
Outside of professional comedy, sorry, I don't want to get on this, but like the amount of people that I've gone to where they say like, "Oh, this is my good friend so and so," when we get into it, you don't even want to.
Oh
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's way outside of comedy. It's that's the thing that bothers me. Is like it's a.
It may be just within our culture.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you would get that same thing in every African culture or every Chinese culture.
Right.
But Americans really, really like transgressive humor.
And it's and to trust the room is to trust that you have your moral compass. That's what makes it a joke. You know,
Right.
And it used to be considered a sense of like camaraderie, ball busting.
Dom
you know, like
Herrera's opening joke is, I think it's important to judge people by the color of their skin.
right.
That's his opening joke.
Yeah.
And that's only a joke because you know Dom Herrera's heart.
Yeah, you can't.
Yes.
David Duke cannot do that joke.
No.
When David Duke does that, it's not a joke.
No.
And of course, well, I mean,
But what I'm going to say is like, I know
Sarah Silverman.
And I want you to get back on your point, but it's just like it's that what we're just expressing. That's also been the cultural norm for way longer than the weird way that we're holding people accountable now for things that are private. It's just strange,
Or public.
right?
Or public.
Oh no, or public.
It's a nutty time. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not even saying that the new way is wrong.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, motherfucker, it's really hard for a 63-year-old man
yeah,
who's worked his life in comedy to adjust to that.
yeah.
You can teach me, but it's going to take me a while, and I'll make mistakes on the way. So, I believe I'm telling the story right. One of the clerks that was talking to Kavanaugh, coming in to work with Kozinski, said, some of the jokes get pretty raunchy around here. I don't think he used the word raunchy, but get pretty raunchy around here. You might have to watch the Aristocrats and get comfortable with it. In a news story, a movie that I did 10 years ago
Yeah.
is being cited as why we might not want a person to be a Supreme Court justice. Because one of the people clerking used the name of my movie. And when I say my movie, of course, Provenza's movie. Provenza and I both were, and Provenza did more on it than I did. And I don't say that to not take responsibility. I say that to give credit.
Yeah.
'Cause,
It was a hit.
yeah.
It was a hit movie.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, like
By the way, we couldn't do the Aristocrats now.
no, you could not. And
No one would be in it.
a dream scenario for me to walk into any job. If someone were to say, "Hey, go watch this movie,"
Yeah.
and if anything in there is not for you, then don't come work here, I'd be like, "Holy shit! I just found the best job."
But I tell you, Nell Scovell just knocked me on my ass. You know, I remember my life, the life I've chosen, should never, ever have slipped into the news. Never. The mention of me in the New York Times should never have gotten out of the entertainment section.
Right.
Ever. And I was never getting out of the entertainment section.
Right.
And now, since 2015, I have been in the news section of the New York Times. Why? I haven't done anything newsworthy. Never. Nothing. I haven't been like Sean Penn at the floods helping out. You know? I didn't donate a kidney, which, by the way, isn't newsworthy because so many altruists do it. But I haven't, I haven't attacked anyone. I haven't put legislation through. You know, Bill Gates can be in the news, even though he's not in politics. I can't. And yet, the New York Times, the list of people the President of the United States hates. For a short period of time, the New York Times had me on that list above Hillary Clinton. And the other people on that list, Whoopi Goldberg, another person who should never, ever have been in the news. Whoopi and I are very happy to stay in the entertainment pages. I can't tell you. You know, I had the advantage, I guess, or the whatever, when a serious candidate for the President of the United States did a tweet in which he made clear he hated me. I found out about that tweet with Opie, of Opie and Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Opie and Jimmy then.
Right.
Opie reading it to me. Okay? I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. I wasn't told about it. I wasn't told about it I was never told about it before I heard it professionally. So it was a man in a microphone with a camera on me and my microphone telling me this is what the major candidate to run for president of the United States of America has said about you this morning, right now. And people have asked me how I reacted to that, and I go, you just go to YouTube and you can see it. You can see my face when I first get that information, you know? It's like people ask me, what'd you think of Piff when you first saw him? I said, it's documented. The meeting, my first meeting with you, not documented. My first meeting with you, not documented. Piff, documented. And my reaction to the review in the New York Times, we don't have that. That wasn't electronically recorded. My reaction to, you know, first meeting teller, not recorded. My reaction to hearing the candidate for the President of the United States talk about me in a negative way is recorded. And my reaction is very close to my dad's reaction to Watergate. It is such an out-of-body experience. And I watched Jimmy Fallon have the exact same experience. Jimmy Fallon was attacked by the president, which I have been too. He became president, still attacked me. Jimmy Fallon said, I was attacked by the president of the United States in a tweet, and I was thinking, what am I going to say back in the tweet? And I said, well, I don't really have time. And he said, at that moment, why does he?
Yeah.
And that was my reaction. You know, Hillary Clinton, whatever bad you want to say about her, she never had time to think about Penn Jillette. I believe that's one quality you need to be president of the United States. I heard that Obama had watched a few episodes of Bullshit.
Yeah.
I heard that he'd heard of Penn and Teller and liked us. I heard about that through a mutual friend in spare time.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the record from Obama, Clinton, Bush, Ford, Reagan,
Presumably going all the way back to George Washington.
where they ever mention me. I think mentioning me publicly disqualifies you as president of the United States.
William Henry Harrison, in a short time, tweet stormed about Penn and Teller.
I would also say, if you are discussing someone hearing about my movie, The Aristocrats, that person cannot be considered a reasonable judge, and I mean that not in the job sense, but reasonable judge of a Supreme Court justice. You must not be talking about The Aristocrats when you're talking seriously about who's going to sit on the Supreme Court, on either side.
Yeah.
Because what movie a clerk for justice has talked about cannot be germane to them being able to do this. It can't be. You know, I just don't want to, because I don't care what you think of The Aristocrats. I mean, I do care desperately. I want everybody to love it. But I don't care what you think of The Aristocrats. What someone's reaction to The Aristocrats is exactly what their reaction to Herbie the Love Bug means for how qualified they are for a job in the Supreme Court. You know, and whether Kavanaugh saw emails that had jokes in them that were inappropriate cannot be part of the judgment for Supreme Court until I learn the new tricks, until I learn what we're actually judging someone by. I believe all the stuff he's done in court before now is on the table.
Right.
I believe you can ask him carefully what he thinks of Roe v. Wade and what he thinks of any Supreme Court. I think you can do that.
You can. He doesn't answer those, but yeah.
No, I'm not talking about his answering.
Yeah.
I think you can ask.
Yeah.
And I think his answer can be complex.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. But you shut up in my movie. And what I mean is not leave me alone, but just let's put a wall between church and state, and let's also build a fucking wall between entertainment and politics. Build the wall. And you know something? The wall between entertainment and politics, I'll pay for. Don't go to Mexico. Don't go to the Senate. I'll pay for it because it's goddamn free. Okay? If the President of the United States mentions a magician, a juggler, a comedian, a singer, an actor, or a comedy writer, you can mention a writer. You want to mention John Locke? Be my guest. You want to mention Jefferson? Bless you.
Yeah.
You just can't do that anymore. Okay? Nothing with me or my movie, but, 4 years from now, whatever it is going to be, 6 years from now, when the President of the United States is running, we need to say, if you mention a magician, you are disqualified. Obama, he's no longer president. Talk about Aretha Franklin. Sure.
Yeah.
All you want. But I don't ever want a president to talk about what they think about Lady Gaga.
Right.
Stop it. Even when Ice-T, moved on to the news pages with Cop Killer. No, you don't need to talk about that. President didn't talk about that. Other people can carry on. Let Rush Limbaugh blow stuff out his ass. Well, just in general.
Sure.
But I know you want to say that the culture is politics and the culture is also entertainment. And yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can talk a little bit about that, but please stop it.
There's numerous times where issues come up in pop culture that were considered very controversial that you're just kind of if the president speaks on it, that feels weird.
But didn't Bill Clinton talk about Sister Souljah? When there's something in his campaign where he talked about that, he might have. There might have been entertainment people that he mentioned. I don't know if the president at the time, I don't know who that was, mentioned the Ice-T thing. We did the song Cop Killer. I don't know if they mentioned Eminem. I know that Hillary Clinton, before we give her too much credit, let's point out that her first presidential campaign ad mentioned stopping video games.
Yeah.
Cut it out, Clinton. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Don't stop it. Just stop it. Video games are not your area of providence. Stop it.
Tipper talked about entertainers plenty.
Yeah, Tipper Gore.
Tipper did. What position did Tipper have in politics?
PMRC.
Oh yeah, she did, but that wasn't her as a political position, was it? I'm saying Tipper can talk about it. Al talked about it too, and that was wrong. One of the big mysteries in my life, two of the huge mysteries in my life, Lou Reed playing Al Gore's inauguration as vice president. Lou, street hassle, one of the first things with a warning sticker on it done by the government. Stop it.
Yeah.
And I was so flipped out when the Zappa children supported Al Gore after Frank's wonderful speech against the. But I mean, there we go, the lesser of two evils, and I guess I'm not gonna. And they were right to do that. But man, I guess I'm not even making a political point. I'm just saying it makes me sad because I think even after Nixon, even after my dad, I think I have a respect for the presidency that will not die. And I believe that after another few years, and I believe it's probably another 6 years of Trump, maybe 12 because Ivanka goes in next, right?
Yeah.
Or Ivana, which is her name? Which is the daughter? Ivanka. She probably goes in next. That's if we want to keep our nightmares going. I will probably be beaten into submission. I've always thought that the president was held in too high a regard, and I've always said, don't take the president too seriously. It's just a job. I've always been saying that. Libertarian, too much power. I've always said that. We now know, as of now, I'm a liar. And I've always held the president of the United States in a great deal of regard that I tried to conceal. Because now that that's slipping away, my heart is fucking breaking. Because, as much as I disagreed with Bush, and I disagree with him a lot, I felt that there was a good human being in there.
Yeah.
I really felt there was a good guy making bad choices.
Right.
Traumatized by 9/11, making bad choices. Dick Cheney making terrible, awful, unforgivable choices. but I think somewhere in there, someone who cared about humanity and cared about people. Obama, I disagree with tremendously, but there is no doubt about Obama's heart. And let me not even start with Jimmy Carter. Jesus Christ, Jimmy Carter. God damn, not a good president.
Right.
Great man.
Great human being.
Great human being.
Great human being. And now we have a piece of shit. And he does not care about human beings at all. And I tell you, I haven't had a lot of experience with him. Whatever I say, several hours I talked with him. I heard him talk. And I never saw one moment of empathy or humanity.
Or humor, from what we've heard.
Yeah, I never saw one moment where he laughed and it wasn't at someone's expense. And I don't mean someone's expense in general. I mean someone's expense specifically. You had something that's hurt you, I will laugh at you. The kind of laugh that all of us are going to feel a little twinge of guilt about. Doesn't mean we don't still laugh, but I wasn't quite right.
Right.
That's the only kind of humor I ever saw him enjoy. And I'm going to keep this once again in my little box, where I say, maybe he has close friends that he laughs with. We have no evidence of that, but maybe he does. I wasn't there. I was never there for a moment of who is now the President of the United States showing what I perceived, maybe it's a lack of my perception, kindness, compassion, empathy, humanity, or humor. Never said a funny thing that I heard that wasn't because it was inappropriate.
Right.
It's a different kind of funny. Never a thing. So it's kind of crazy. And now I get this, and I try to spin it for pride. Oh, my movie, The Aristocrats, was enough a part of the culture that people talking about the Supreme Court are talking about it. I can't do it.
Right.
I don't. The pride is overwhelmed by the sadness. Such a creepy, weird fucking thing.
Yeah.
And Alex Kozinski, I love you, and will miss you as Ninth Circuit so much. And I'll tell you, those people that worked for bringing him to bring him down, I hope so much that the next guy that's in there, the next person that's in there, I use guy for both genders, but I want to be a little more careful. The next person that's in there, I hope they're a step up. I don't see how that's possible. Because to me, Alex Kozinski, including the Supreme Court people, were the best we had.
Right.
Of all the judges that I knew about and read stuff about, he was our best. And maybe it's important to make an example of that. Maybe it is. Maybe 50 years from now, people will be looking back and going, wow,
What a brute.
It's really good that we did the purge because we made major changes. We know during civil rights changes, there were things that were done that were not expedient that we now look back on and go, yeah, good that, There were a lot of people made really uncomfortable by busing. It's probably a good thing.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know all the nuances now, but a lot of people hated that. Might have been a good thing. So maybe that's what we're feeling now. Maybe we'll look back and go, man, it took us a long time to catch on and have our eyes open. Maybe these jokes will never be right again, and maybe we'll feel good about that. Maybe we'll look back in 20 years
We'll be the
and go,
last ones to laugh at those jokes.
Maybe we're the last people to laugh at those jokes. And maybe that's okay.
Right.
Sarah Silverman has said some really smart stuff about this, really smart.
Yeah.
And Sarah Silverman is really smart. And I think that whenever Sarah Silverman's saying something and we disagree with her, it's important to remember that we got to listen.
Right.
Because she might be right. So that's what I have to say.